Hey there, Danny with Right Foot Down. I messed up this ad read so many times because I really want to tell you about Track Monkey Apparel. They make great quality enthusiast shirts along with hats, stickers, watches, patches, you name it. A couple of my personal favorites are their Life is Better at the Track tee and their One Track Mind tee. You should really check them out and see for yourself. Their products are great for you or the gearhead in your life. Visit trackmonkeyapparel.com.
You're listening to the Untitled Car Show in partnership with RightFootDown.com. Visit Right Foot Down for your daily automotive fix. If you enjoyed today's program, please tell a friend. It's the best way to support this show. If you want to visit the archives, go to YouTube and search for Untitled Car Show. That'll bring you to the archived episodes. If you want to follow the show, just search for Untitled Car Show on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You can always send an email to the show at untitledcarshow@rightfootdown.com. We're so glad you decided to spend the next hour or so with us. Without further ado, let's get into today's program. Hello and welcome to the Untitled Car Show. I am your host, Ike. Today I'm joined by Nate Adams. He is the producer and acquisition specialist or acquisition. I just was looking at that and I just put it down. This is the brain's fried today. Nate, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good, man. I'm Adam Carolla's partner at Chassy Media. I produce and direct the docs we do. I'm also the president of acquisitions for all the 30 titles that we distribute as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is, if you don't know what Chassy Media is, and you're hearing the sound of my voice right now, you need to go check out Winning the Racing Life of Paul Newman and the 24-Hour War, two of the best automotive documentaries that have come out pretty much ever, in my mind. I put it right up there with the documentary Senna, which I think most people in the field are familiar with now. I think it's Winning for sure is up there. The 24-Hour War, definitely. They're shot fantastic. They got this look and feel and atmosphere that it doesn't matter if you're a car enthusiast or not, but especially if you are a car enthusiast, it's movies you have to go see and watch. And then there's also films like you have the Bug movie, which is a movie about the Volkswagen Beetle and kind of its development, and a bunch of other movies, even some stuff that's not car related, like pull up your notes, Ike. It's the Underdog movie. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, King of the Underdogs. It's a documentary about John Avildsen, who directed Rocky and the Karate Kid, and yeah, we've got about 15 more titles coming out. We got 3 BMW racing docs. We've got a documentary about the Indian motorcycle called The Indian Wrecking Crew that I got Jay Leno to narrate for us. We have another really great doc called The Yank Tanks, which is awesome. It's about the old American cars in Cuba. When we had the embargo in the 50s, they stopped giving parts to them, so these guys basically had to put those old cars together with, like, dental floss and bubble gum. Mm-hmm. And it's really amazing to see what they did with the cars. Great music. I really enjoy that doc. We have another one about Ayrton Senna called Senna versus Brundle. These are all coming out this year. So basically, starting mid to end of January, we'll be releasing a new automotive doc every week.
Oh, wow. That's going to be... I don't have that much free time. I got enough on my plate, but I'm going to have to come down. See, that's crazy. That's going to be amazing. Because, like I said, the two films you led the way with, and I'm kind of curious about, they're so fantastic. I'm kind of curious about how you got wrapped up in working with Adam Carolla in the first place to start Chassy.
Well, Adam and I met, I think it's almost 4.5, 5 years ago now. And we met because we were my background as a screenwriter and documentary filmmakers, sports docs. And so we were going to work on a script together. A friend of ours, a mutual friend, hooked us up. And when we were in the room, Adam came up with the idea for the feature film Road Hard, which is loosely based on his life with Jimmy Kimmel and life on the road for a stand-up comedian.
Which is another great film.
I ended up producing that movie for Adam, along with a friend of mine, Kelly Carter, who introduced Adam and I. And, after that, Adam has these Paul Newman cars that he owns. He's an avid vintage race car driver and collector of vintage race cars. And he said, he has these Paul Newman cars, and he had all these great stories. And he said, hey, do you think that there's a doc here? And I said, absolutely. I looked at all the material, and I said, absolutely. Because he had originally wanted to go, he originally went to his buddy at ESPN and asked him if we could do a 30 for 30. But they said, no, there's not enough material there. And when he talked to me, I was like, those guys don't know what they're talking about. There's plenty of material here. So we made that doc, ranked number 3 on Bleacher Report for sports docs, won Motor Press Guild Feature of the Year. It's a good doc.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass when it comes to this. It is coming from someone who, I'm a podcaster, so I obviously know who Adam Carolla is. But I didn't know anything about Paul Newman really before getting into this. And then watching that film, it's like me and my wife sat down, we watched through the whole film, and we were both kind of like blown away by like the story, the ups and downs of like him and racing, with what happened with his, son, the unfortunateness of that. And then kind of it leads into other stuff. Like I would never have been as impressed with the Rolex watch that just sold for crazy amounts of money. That was a Paul Newman watch. Like knowing the backstory now, it's like, oh, that is so much more of an impressive tale. And I get one of the great benefits of what I get to do when I get to reach out to people, talk to them, interview them like yourself, is I have this benefit of talking to people who put together such a great product. And Roadkill, obviously a great film. Racing the Life of Paul Newman, fantastic film. And all the other films, I could just sit and spout off about them all day. I'm curious, so you start the film, you're doing it with Adam Carolla, and what was your involvement besides, because producing is kind of an abstract thing for people who don't really know the industry very well. So what was your involvement in the Paul Newman film? Yeah, Winning.
Cutting out a little bit. I hope that's not
yeah, I'm sorry.
Just poor network connection on tape as well. So if we need to re-record this, maybe we will. My involvement with the Paul Newman doc, I produced and co-directed it with Adam. So Adam conducted some of the interviews. I conducted the rest. I do the post. I sit with the editors. I do the day-to-day. Adam's a pretty busy dude, so,
yeah.
I'm the guy that's always here, always doing.
You're the one who has to sit in the room with the guys who have the world's pickiest taste. So
that's right.
Yeah. So a lot of what you do is kind of bleeds into the character and kind of the way the film comes together. Because, when I think producer, I typically think, oh, that's just a guy supplying a little bit of money and he's, gives like his 5 cents. But you're really involved in the day-to-day operations to a large extent. So you can feel this love of the automobiles and the story. Do you have a background in cars? Is it a passion of yours, or is this something you kind of learned about more or less on the job?
Yeah, for me, I definitely, Adam is the car guy of the two of us. We always kind of have this saying where, car docs are used with, who are car lovers with no filmmaking experience or no car experience.
Yeah.
we're a really good team in that way because Adam's a car nerd and I'm not. And so for me, it's really critical that the stories are accessible to normal people. You know, like it doesn't matter if you like cars or not. The Paul Newman documentary is something you'll enjoy. Mm-hmm. You know, I kind of use my wife as a barometer. If she falls asleep when I show her the rough cut, then I know that I have work to do.
Yeah, it's like the 24-Hour War is so compelling too because of all the weird drama in that, and you captured it so wonderfully. Like, you know, basically how much of a jackass Ferrari was, for lack of a better word, and like, you know, Ford trying to stick it to them, and kind of all the craziness surrounding that. The 24-Hour War is probably, again, one of the best movies out there, and it's, you know, like you said, car guy and guy who, you know, storytelling guy getting together and, you know, working together. It comes off perfectly. Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic.
That doc was really, you know, that's in an interesting way because it's the first documentary that Ferrari participated in about that subject matter, or really any, you know, they're just not real big on participating in docs.
Yeah.
But I flew to Italy. I interviewed Piero Ferrari and Mauro Fiorgari and Coli, and, you know, I mean, part of it's like a big, you know, I always, it's a way that I love working with Adam. You know, because, you know, Adam's just like, yeah, let's do it. You know, whereas he puts up the money for these docs. It's not like we have some big entity behind us. You know, it's Adam.
Yeah.
And he does these because he loves docs and he loves making them, and he loves, you know, we've been very fortunate that our docs have done well, but, you know, he puts the money up whether they're going to make money or not. And it's because it's subjects that he likes. And, you know, we're finishing one right now on Willie T. Ribbs, who's the first African-American to race and qualify in the Indy 500, you know, and that's a doc I can't wait for people to see. It has a lot of, you know, sociological importance, as well as, you know, it definitely transcends racing. It's not a racing doc. It's a documentary about, you know, a black man who raced in a white man's sport. Yeah. And it's very interesting. And I really, you know, he was in here working on some stuff with us today. And I mean, I love that guy. We found him in the Paul Newman documentary. And both Adam and I, once we cut that part of him in the Paul Newman story, because he got his first real racing job because Paul Newman armed to get him a job because no one would hire him. Yeah. And, you know, his story is just fantastic.
It couldn't be better timing, and it's such a fascinating story. As soon as I don't know how long ago it was kind of announced that was kind of a doc Adam was working on, and like, it's such a compelling story just knowing the little bit about it that I do. You know, I just can't wait for that one to go out. And that one, so is that one supposed to come out this year? Because otherwise I'm going to be, you know, chomping on the bit for a whole nother year otherwise. So.
No, it'll come out this year.
Excellent.
It's pretty much done right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Willie T. Ribbs documentary is, you know, it's a documentary that transcends racing, and it's something that we're really proud of. You know, we had a test screening of it, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And if you've seen the Paul Newman documentary, then you've been introduced to Willie T. Ribbs because he was someone who he won a very big racing series in England called Formula Ford Series, and then he came back to America and no one would hire him because he was African American. And Paul Newman helped him get his first job as a full-time driver. So that was your introduction, and that was Adam and I's introduction. And after we met Willie, we both said, this guy needs his own doc because he is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And I heard there was, again, this is a little bit, if you don't listen to, I can't imagine there's a person out there who listens to podcasts who doesn't listen to Adam Carolla's show, but just in case, I heard there was a bit of controversy he wanted the title to be one thing, and it's kind of been a particular word's been taken out of it, and we've kind of settled on a title, or is he still fighting for the original title?
We took we took the word out because Willie. So when Willie raced, he had a nickname, and they all called him something behind his back, which he found out later in life, and everyone called him this particular name, and they called him Uppity, and they called him the Uppity N-word, and he wanted to use the N-word in the title, but that was just a little we just couldn't do that.
Hard to get into Sundance that way.
Well, we didn't get into Sundance, so who cares?
Which is crazy.
I mean,
Paul Newman, Robin Redford. It's such a.
The Paul Newman documentary narrative didn't get into Sundance either. So
I know that's the crazy thing to me. It's like, that makes zero sense, especially given, like you said, two of the best, documentaries, best sports documentary, Paul Newman in it. His last technical film, I guess, he's ever going to be in, and whatever. But got snubbed is basically what happened. So, kind of going back to kind of your car accreditation, seeing as how the movies are great, you do a fantastic job. I'm curious, what is it you're driving around day to day?
What do I around day to day? I drive around a Toyota Highlander Limited.
Okay,
so
respectable vehicle. Yeah,
I am not a But Adam drives a Jag, and he has a lot cooler cars that he could drive. Let me tell you.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's got. In terms of cool car collection, it's probably Jay Leno and then Adam Carolla in terms of like places you need to go check out. Especially if you like Datsuns. Definitely go. Well, I don't know who has more Datsuns. That's an interesting question.
Adam does easily. We've done a lot with Jay. Jay.
I guess it's not steam powered, so Jay doesn't want it. Yeah.
But I tell people, because we always screen our docs for Jay, and Jay's always been very supportive of us, and just a great guy for everything that we do. But Jay, I've been to tons of car museums all over the world. Mm-hmm. There is no car museum that touches Jay's garage.
Yeah.
They're just, I've been to the Henry Ford, I've been to the Ferrari Museum, I've been all over England, you name it, a lot of the big ones in the U.S. But what Jay has is just, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's every car nerd's dream to have what Jay has. So,
yeah.
Seeing as how you've done that, so there's a set of questions I kind of want to ask you. I ask these of every person who comes on the show. These are kind of the inside the actor's studio questions, but for car people. So
sure.
I'm sure you're familiar with that series, so I don't need to explain the rules to you. So what is your favorite car?
That's a tough one. Probably my favorite car is... everyone should say a Ferrari GTO from the mid-'60s, because you can sell that car and buy every car you want in the world. But I'm a big fan of... I do love those GTOs, by the way. I am a big Shelby Cobra fan.
That is a good answer.
We are doing the official Carroll Shelby documentary, so that will be coming out probably at the end of the year.
Oh, wow. That's another great story guy, basically. That's amazing, because like the ups and downs of that, and kind of like him being kind of broken and unable to race, and then turning to building cars. That's
It's a great story.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask more questions on that here in a second. What is your least favorite car?
Wow. My least favorite car is a Chevy Chevette.
Also, good answer. That's Chevy Chevette. Well, any particular reason, or is it just the weird appearance of it?
That was my first car in high school, and it was such a piece of crap. No, I just thought
you grew a disdain for it that way.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a personal disdain. I get it. What car modification trend is your most favorite? So we're talking about like, lowriders, people who like do the big lifted trucks, the Brodozer guys.
Weirdly enough, I've always liked glass packs. I like the way they sound.
I get that.
Probably don't get that answer very much.
No, I don't. That's a new one.
But I've always liked the way they sound, and it's a pretty inexpensive modification.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had a 73 Challenger.
Oh.
So, but I just glass packs to me are always kind of a fun, cool, but inexpensive way to give your car a little better sound.
Yeah. You had a 73 Challenger.
Mm.
Was that the car immediately after the Chevette?
Oh, no. I sold that like 2 years ago.
Oh.
I had that.
Wow.
No. That was just a car I got and did a little, fixed up a little bit and then got rid of.
It's a good car.
Adam makes fun, by the way, for that car because he hates muscle cars.
I kind of...
It's like Mopar.
Yeah. I kind of agree with him, and I owned two newer Challengers. I owned a 2010 and a 2011, and those things will make you hate them after owning them. I don't get Adam's hate of that. He likes that small stuff. That's his, area of expertise, that small Japanese stuff. So don't let him get to you too much. Everyone else here in America, in the land of the free, enjoys a proper Challenger. Challenger is lovable. How can you hate a Challenger? It's crazy.
Yeah.
For the first time ever, I can say Adam Carolla is wrong. That's interesting.
There you go. I say that a lot.
Well, you got to work with him. So, what is your least favorite modification to a vehicle?
I hate it when people unnecessarily cut a hole in the hood or put a hood scoop on a car that doesn't need it.
That's a good one. I hate that as well. You're doing the Carroll Shelby doc. He was kind of the master of like fake hood scoops everywhere. That's what we do.
Yeah, kind of that kind of stuff. I'm not like a huge fan of that stuff.
Mm.
If the car needs it and it helps it to take in air and it's yes, but it's just otherwise,
Yeah, it's the it's the extra medium shirt on the guy who spends way too much time at the gym. It's like you don't need that shirt. It just basically makes you into a douchebag. So,
right.
What car do you dread being stuck behind at a red light?
A city bus.
That'll do it. That's a bad one. We kind of already got the answer to this one, but what automotive sound or noise do you love?
Oh, the sound I love is the sound of a 12-cylinder Ferrari.
That is.
There's really no other sound like that. So when those old Ferraris start and you hear them, it is not. It's just there's just no other sound like that from a motor.
Yeah. That is a quite common answer from a lot of gearheads, and it is. I completely agree. It's fantastic. It's It's so fantastic. So what's the automotive sound or noise you dread or hate?
Oh, I hate when the clankety clang of a motor when you know there's something bad's about to happen.
Yeah, like
when you know something bad's about to go down. Usually noise I like is the squeaking that brakes make before they go out.
Yes.
That kind of automatic squeaking that they put in there.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that noise.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts when I hear it, when a car starts to squeak like that.
Well, it's a good thing you live in L.A. where people take fantastic care of their cars, and I'm sure you don't hear that at all, right? Ever?
Most people here do have new cars, so you'd be surprised you don't hear it as much as you'd think.
I'm just thinking of like all the recent immigrants in their pickup trucks driving around. That's kind of
actually not that much of that.
Oh,
that I see.
Interesting. Well, I feel like Adam's painted a terrible picture of L.A. for me then. So,
yeah, Adam's picture of L.A. is slightly askew, but it dates back to his era working in construction. It was like 25 years ago.
Yeah. What profession in the automotive world, other than what you're doing, would you like to try, or do you think you'd be good at?
Well, I'd like to try being a race car driver. I'd be good at it. I don't know. Let's see. I shoot, like I just directed second unit on a race car movie that John Travolta did this summer. I like doing stunt driving and doing that kind of stuff as well. So I do some of that. I like that part. I wouldn't mind being.
Yeah. I think that'd
and I
be
can
fun.
do that.
I mean, if you fail, it just makes it look more impressive.
Yeah.
So
after you damage a really expensive equipment.
Uh-huh. Well, you might appreciate this. I'm sure through Adam, you're familiar with Christopher Titus.
Of course.
He borrowed, I guess, Dodge loaned him a Dodge Charger for his movie special unit, and he ended up completely destroying the rear quarter on it in one take. It was like, yep, that's going to be an interesting one to explain to Dodge when they hand it back. So, but it made it into the movie and made the scene made the scene a little better, in my opinion. Well,
at least he had the, when they asked what happened to the car, he could just show them.
Yeah. Well, you see what happened is, or just send him that in an email and just leave the car back at the shop. What is the hardest food to eat while driving?
I would assume soup.
See, this is where it gets a little stupid competitive. I have a power ranking of it. Matzo ball soup is on the top of that list right now, just because it's got the big matzo ball.
Matzo ball in.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit
That's
harder.
actually the soup I was thinking of.
Okay.
That or a noodle soup, because you got to chase those noodles down.
That's true. The mess level on a noodle soup is there's a lot more potential, I think. So that puts you fairly good up towards the top. A good soup, that's a good one. So well done. What's the hardest makeup to apply while driving?
Well, not that I have any experience with this, but I would say eyeliner, because you have to be pretty careful of your eyeball.
Yeah, that's the most common answer. Eyeliner, mascara, anything close to the eye. Do you have, because out here, Baltimore, D.C., I see a ton of that when I'm driving around, and I see, ladies putting on the final touch of their makeup, looking into a little flip down mirror, putting on eyeliner while driving and talking on a phone, and it's just, I'm simultaneously impressed and very scared about what could happen with that. So, let's kind of get back to, so that concludes our Inside the Actor Studio type questions here. So let's kind of get back to what you're doing in here. I'm curious, I saw on your little bio that you did a video game at one time as well.
Yeah, I did. I shot the live actions, some of the high speed stuff inside this game called Dante's Inferno for EA Sports, for just EA, the video game company.
That's interesting. I'm always curious because there's always weird connections. Like prior guest I had on the show worked on pop-up video, so there's sometimes like weird connections I've had with people before, finding them through the automotive connection. So it's interesting. I don't know if I played that game, but I did remember hearing good things. So, I'm curious. So Yank Tanks is coming out soon, right? Or is it out right now? I'm trying to put together my
Yank Tanks is out. Yeah, that's a doc on our site. You can go order it on chassy.com, chassy.com.
Yeah. Did you get to go down to Cuba yourself and see all these cars?
Oh, no, that's an acquisition. The only ones that I've actually worked on and done would be the 24-Hour War and the Newman doc. The rest of them are acquisitions.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious about then how does that work with the acquisitions? Is this something where, not to get too much into the minutia of the business, but is this something where someone approaches you and says, I want to put together this film, or is it something you come across and you're like, oh, like this is something we want to bring into our portfolio?
Yeah, it's more of the second part. So it's usually a completed doc. Sometimes they're partially completed and we'll help them finish them. There's different versions of it.
Yeah. Like, we're in the middle of shooting this, but we need more money, so can you help us out, and blah, blah, blah. So how much of the stuff coming out this year is going to be stuff that is being made by Chassy, and how much of it's acquisitions?
I would say probably we're working on, we have a K-Rock documentary on this radio station that Adam and Jimmy Kimmel both started at in Los Angeles that also broke every band from U2 to Imagine Dragons to No Doubt to Green Day, Blink-182, Beck. Those are all people I've interviewed, by the way, too, for the doc already. But wow. That's going to be a big music doc. And it also, Jimmy started there, Adam, Chris Hardwick, Carson Daly, Kennedy, all those, they all started at the same radio station.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool, but this is a station that kind of started breaking punk rock music in the 70s and went on to new wave and then broke all the grunge and, broke all the rap. And, nowadays even we're the first people to play 21 Pilots.
Yeah.
So they're a very revolutionary radio station. So it's a big, that's a big doc we're taking out and doing. And then the Carroll Shelby documentary we're doing, and then the Willie T. Ribbs documentary, and then the rest of the docs will be acquisitions.
So the Carroll Shelby doc is going to be later in the year. You got Willie T. Ribbs hopefully kind of soon, and then I'm curious, who comes up with the ideas of what we're going to shoot? I mean, Willie T. Ribbs kind of fell into your lap because you had him from Winning, and such a great story. You have to follow up with that. But like, why go to Carroll Shelby after that? Who comes up with the idea of what to pursue next?
It's something that Adam and I talk about, and
great.
Decide that that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. It is. I'm a little curious on this aspect of it. It's you hear a great story, you come across something in the news, or it's something,
Not generally for us, there are some parameters. You need it to be a big story or person, and it needs to be as global as possible. That's why we like 24-Hour War so much, because it was Le Mans, it was Ford versus Ferrari with with Henry Ford II versus Enzo Ferrari literally not liking each other.
Yeah.
So, you have this global kind of war between these titans of the automotive industry. So, that's the epic kind of stories we're always looking for. Now, that story is probably one of the, if not the biggest story in automotive, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really not too many other global stories that are that big and cool where these guys had it out on the racetrack.
Yeah.
You know, but Paul Newman, you know, it's a huge figure that a lot of people did not know about his 35-year racing career, you know, and Willie T. Ribbs, you know, for whatever reason, you know, he approached a lot of people to try to tell his story. We weren't just the first people, and they wouldn't do it. And Adam was like, this story needs to be told. And so we did it, you know. Yeah. That one, you know, I mean, both of us really liked, you know, Willie's story, and that was how that got going. And, you know, the Shelby story, you know, we had a conversation, and we got his family on board, and that was that. And, you know, K-Rock, same.
Yeah.
Really kind of, you know, things that, you know, Adam is passionate about that I really feel has a good story to it. That's kind of our, you know, and that we feel has a, you know, a fan base and kind of something that people can really attach themselves to and enjoy.
Has there been a movie, you know, that maybe you wanted to do, but it's just not practical to do, like, so you had to, like, kind of put the kibosh on it?
Of course, yeah, there's lots of those.
So, you know, I love whoever your first unit is, whoever puts together the stuff, the editors, those guys, they do such a phenomenal job. They capture, like I said, the spirit of, like, what it really means to have a passion in this space. You know, you and Adam kind of leading it on, it's such phenomenal work. And again, if you're hearing this right now, you know, while you're listening, pull up on your, you know, smart TV or wherever and go find the stuff, because you can get 24-Hour War and I think Racing the Life of Paul, or Winning the Racing Life of Paul Newman are both available on Amazon at the moment, if I'm not mistaken.
The Newman doc is off Amazon Prime now. You can still get it there, though.
Yeah. And if you're interested in any of the other docs, it's Chassy. Well, we probably should have pointed this out earlier. It's not spelled the way it's typically spelled. It's spelled the way it should be spelled. So it's Chassy. So
that's correct.
Yeah. And you all have a social media presence as well. You know, Chassy, again, it'd be better. Oh, my notes. Comeback notes.
No, it's okay. We have a great on our Facebook page. Go to find our Chassy Media Facebook page. We are always putting constantly, got a lot of great car articles, a lot of great blogs there. You know, we're going to start putting out a lot more short form automotive content there, as well as our YouTube channel. And if you go to chassy.com, you can see the titles we have, but we like I said, starting in the middle of January, and sign up for our newsletter on new automotive release every week for probably about 10 weeks at least.
Oh, wow. And that's going to be...
Bring up the acquisitions.
Yeah. I mean, it's... The ones I've seen, I've watched bits and pieces, you know, pull up the trailers for the Bug movie and...
the Bug movie's great. Stars Ewan McGregor. Yeah. You know, his first car was a Bug. You learn a lot of stuff that you didn't know about the Bug and its history around the world. It's a lot of fun.
And it has in it friend of the show here, Jason Torchinsky, in it, and he's always great. He's hilarious. Weird guy. So your first car was the Chevelle, and you ended up totaling it. How? You just parked crashing?
The Chevy Chevette. I hit a parked car on my way to school.
So that was a mistake. Quit moving. You hit a parked car on your way to school. So what was the car immediately following it then?
Ooh, now you're getting into rough territory. I think it was Maybe a Honda Accord.
Because everyone's first car is always great, and then they crash, and then there's either never enough money or never enough trust for the next car to be anywhere near good. So it always ends up being this series of like utterly underwhelming cars.
We were like, I had piece of shit cars.
Yeah.
Whatever I could get. I worked on a farm every summer, so
I got
whatever I could make, get enough money to buy a car.
So then how did you go from working on cars every summer to being, putting together documentaries?
I worked on a farm, not cars.
I said farm. Yeah. So how'd you go from farm to docs? It's kind of...
Well, I'm from Montana, and so I just knew that I wanted to work in this business. So when I finished college, I had a brief stopover in Portland, Oregon, and then I came here, did a little bit of acting, and then I started writing screenplays, and they started to get a lot of notoriety, and I started to get work rewriting people's screenplays. And actually making a half-decent living at it. And then that kind of dried up when the studios stopped developing. And, that's when I started making sports docs. And I was a senior producer at Showtime and CBS, and just kept working and working and working, and always kept writing, and that's a big part of storytelling. It's a big part of my storytelling ability is the writing.
Was there a moment where you kind of realized, that you kind of were doing what you wanted to be doing? Like, was there that point where, like, there were particular projects you got to work on, a particular, thing you got to do where you're like, now this is, I know this is what I really want to do, and this is what I should be doing?
I mean, the Newman doc was that. The Newman doc and Road. I mean, all the stuff that I do with Adam is great because Adam is he's for me, he's really great to work with, because one thing I realized very quickly is we have very, very, very similar taste. So, when I show him cuts or things or whatever that we've done, I can still remember the first time we showed him, because he kind of brought me in to test me out on the Newman doc, because he had no idea. He just went on blind faith of even letting me do anything. So we cut like 25 minutes of it, and it's pretty much the 25 minutes that's in the doc. But we cut it, and I just, I remember he watched it, and he just got up, and he was like, I got to take you to lunch. This is great. Wow. And that's, if you know Adam, that's really not his reaction to anything. So,
yeah.
And it was just me and an editor in a room for like weeks on end, cutting that 25 minutes, and that's kind of, we're a pretty small operation here, but we've grown, it used to, for the first couple things, it was just me and an editor and Adam,
Yeah.
Now we have a few more editors and some people that work for me in the acquisitions department as well. So we've grown a bit, but, that's really that's what both of us like. And both of us are pretty similar in terms of work ethic, and we just, Adam's a workhorse, and I like working a lot too. And I like a lot of responsibility, and I like and appreciate that Adam lets me do what I want to do. If I say, Adam, I have to go to Italy to interview these guys, it's going to cost a lot of money. And he's like, okay, go. If you think we need it, then go. He never questions me. He never even asks me how much money it's going to cost. I try to do everything for as little money as possible, but, it's a rare person that's not like, well, that might be too expensive,
Yeah.
He's like, nope, go.
Mm-hmm.
We need that.
It's wonderful that he trusts you with that, because I'm sure his thought process is, if he says we need it, that's what we need for this to be a good documentary. So, I can't think of a better boss to really work for than him, as long as he trusts you, and until he finds out that you're picky about something you eat or something like that, and then it's
right. Yeah, well, I'm not. The guys who work for me are.
Yeah,
but
yeah. That's crazy.
I'm usually the less of that kind of attention that you can get from Adam, the better.
Yeah. So you grew up in Montana. You live in L.A. There's no way you went from there to Montana to L.A. and don't have a good ticket story, like a good first ticket story, or moving to L.A., getting like a weird ticket for doing something, because L.A.'s known for their enforcement out there, I would say. So
no, the only thing I got like that you can't, if you're not from here, that you really can't fathom is that a parking ticket's like $74. If the meter expires, and if the meter expires, you have that ticket in like 60 seconds after it expires. I mean, it is nuts how fast they come, and those guys are like ninjas because they don't want you to murder them.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how quickly that ticket ends up on your car.
Yeah.
That happened to me. And when you're a poor, struggling, dead broke kid, a $74 ticket is like, unbelievably, brutal. Like you want to kill yourself because that's like 2 weeks worth of food.
Yeah, it's like, well, I was going to eat. I guess not going to happen.
Yep.
I'm going to pay the city of Los Angeles because I decided to park my car. How dare I? So you went on long. Did you drive out from Montana? You said you went from Montana to Portland to L.A.
I drove here, from Portland, and I have made that drive a few times, but it's 24 hours, and it's awful. And ever since I've had any semblance of money, I haven't made that drive for 15 years at least, or probably more than that, because I don't,
No, I don't want to deal with it. I get that.
It's a drive you make because you have to, not because you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have all the time in the world, but
Yeah, well, I was going to say one of the great joys I got in my life was driving. I drove from the East Coast to the West Coast, from Delaware to I was going to L.A., but it was the day of the Big Dig, or whatever they were doing with the bridge project, where it was supposed to be like Carmageddon. So I ended up diverting to San Francisco, but I took the Pacific Coast Highway as much as I could.
Oh, yeah.
That's a gorgeous stretch of road. So I'm wondering if maybe the more Adam kind of, gets you into this car thing, if there's like any sort of road trip you'd want to take or do,
I like driving and listening to podcasts. I do enjoy that. But I would say I'd like to take my kids on an RV trip around the country.
Yeah.
I think that would be fun to show, because I've been pretty fortunate and got to, there's maybe 1 or 2 states I've never been to, just because I've traveled so much shooting. So, I would like to take my kids around and do that at some point when they're older and, a little more coherent.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to guess that they're both under 5 then. So.
Yeah, one of them's 4 and the other one is 10 months.
Oh, wow. Mazel tov on that. Congrats. So you're not sleeping at all at the moment. So.
No.
Yeah.
That's exact right.
Yeah. So, I got a final question, and then I want to kind of, let people know once again where they can go to find this stuff. So, final question is, what is your automotive pet peeve? What drives you nuts when you see it either in your car or on the road?
My automotive pet peeve is when I can see people paying attention to their cell phone.
Yeah.
When they're looking at or texting, because I see it all the time in LA, and it makes me nuts. I mean, because I know like they're going to hit somebody or they're, that makes me nuts. Or ultra slow people who just drive away for no reason. Mm-hmm. That makes me a little crazy as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me how many people don't understand that the left lane is for faster traffic. That's what that's for. If you're not going fast, you get over into the right lane.
You know what? Yes, you just touched on my main pet peeve of freeway driving, which is the far left lane is for fast cars. And if you are not a fast car, get the F out of that lane, or I will be behind you flashing my lights into your mirror because you make me nuts. Yeah, people get that from me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it as bad out there as it is here, where if you flash someone, they just decide, I'm just going to slam on my brakes for no good goddamn reason?
I mean, there's probably a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they actually understand they're supposed to move over.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just don't do anything. Like, they don't know what's going on.
That's always... I would take a cell phone driver over an aloof driver. Like, the aloof driver who has no idea what's going on, like, that's way more dangerous in my mind than the guy on the cell phone. I don't know. Maybe that's my own bad wiring, but who knows. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today and kind of putting up with the technical shit that's happened. So once again, we can find all the info we need, on the social media stuff, which can all be found by going to chassy.com. So that's CHASSY.com.
And look up our Facebook page and our YouTube channel.
Yeah. And both, I'm sure if you just go to YouTube and just type in Chassy, spell it that way, it pops up. Is there any personal social media or anything else you want to plug while you're here?
Sure, I'm at NateAdams26 on, I do a lot more posting on Instagram than I do on Twitter. But I'm at NateAdams26 on both.
All right. And Nate, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you coming out, spending time with us this evening. And I'm going to say goodbye to you off air and everyone who's listening. I'll be right back and to wrap up the show. So,
thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure if you like what you hear, you tell a friend. Follow the show on all the social media by just searching for Untitled Car Show on your platform of choice. And have a good night. Have a good evening. Wherever you are, whatever time it is there. Thank you so much for listening. Please be safe out there.